And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today I want to talk about a two-player asymmetrical game called Fugitive. Now this is from Tim Fowers. This is he's made a game paperback, which is a great game. He has a great artist, kind of has that whole 1920s, 30s vibe going onto it, or I guess this one's more of a 50s vibe going. But he just has a really some cool ideas. A neat box here. To some degree, it's a suitcase box and opens up like this and shows you all the contents inside. I do think that the box, though, even though it's a cool suitcase box, on the shelf is going to look a little bland, and it doesn't show you what the game is really like on the back of the box. I know they're going for the suitcase motif, which is neat, but ultimately I think some people are going to just pass right by the game because this does not look interesting at all. But in this game, one person is a fugitive running from justice. The other person is the marshal trying to catch them, just like the famous TV series / movie. Here's how it plays. The game is going to start on the rooftop here, and you can see here that the spy is standing on the rooftop, the fugitive, and one player is going to be that fugitive, and the other player is going to be the person trying to stop him. That's her there. She's very irritated. She's going to catch the spy. The fugitive needs to get to card 42 from card 0. They're going to start the game with 1, 2, and 3 in their hand and 42. And the rest of the cards are going to be shuffled down here, although they're going to be able to draw cards from the first couple of stacks to put in their hand. This is going to be their starting hand, and then the game is going to play. Both players will make sort of like a double move on their first turn, but after that, it's one move back and forth. The marshal player has a pad here where they're going to be trying to keep track with a erasable marker, where they're going to be trying to keep track of the different things that are going on as the game is played, trying to figure out where the fugitive is. Their goal is to guess. So in the first turn, the fugitive will put out 2 hideouts. So let's say the fugitive decides to put out this hideout and this hideout. Then the marshal will draw 2 cards from any stack. Now, when the marshal draws cards, they can cross out those numbers. They know that the fugitive is never going to be at those numbers. So the fugitive is going to be placing a hideout every turn, so they'll draw a card from a deck. I got a 7, and they can place a hideout here. But the marshal is going to be drawing cards and guessing what hideouts the fugitive has played. Now the marshal can guess one thing, so he could say 4. Nope, haven't played a 4. Or the marshal could say 3. Yep, 3 is now revealed. The marshal can guess more than one number, but he has to get them all correct. So for example, this is 3 and 6. The marshal could say 3 and 5. And I would say no. Even though 3 is correct, you have to get both numbers correct for me to be able to show it to you. Now, a fugitive can, when they are putting out their hideouts each time, so each turn they're going to be placing out another hideout. These numbers are going to get higher sequentially, and they can only ever get higher by 3. So you can say 0 plus 3 is 3, plus 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. That's fine. However, if you want to burn some cards to travel with, so let's say, for example, I want to go higher instead of 6 to 7, I want to go from 6 to 11. Well, that's pretty high. That's a jump of 5. So I can go my normal 3, and I need 2 more. So I burn these 2 cards. They have 2 footprints on them. Some cards actually have 2 footprints on. You know what? I'll be sneaky. I'll just put 1 card there. So you show your opponent that you've used 1 card, so they know that it's 1 or 2 footprints. If it's 2 cards, it's 2 or 3 footprints. So they know that the jump here is bigger. Of course, if they don't know what the jump is, if they haven't discovered this card yet, that's even harder. But every time the fugitive uses cards to do that, they're burning cards in their hand. So the marshal's watching the jumps, trying to figure out, marking on here, where he thinks that the fugitive is at any given point in time, while the fugitive's drawing cards from here, trying to get to 42. If they get to 42, they win. Except the marshal can have one last chance where if he can guess every single card played, the marshal can come back. Now, this is one thing in the game. You can also add random events. These events are going to help either the fugitive or the marshal, or sometimes neutral, and you would shuffle a couple in each one that's here. So, for example, place this event on the next hideout slot, When you reveal this hideout, the sprint cards here are not revealed, so you wouldn't know how far they moved from one spot to the other. A street musician places event on the next hideout. Each sprint card played here counts as only +1, regardless of the card's actual sprint number. Here, if there's only one face-down hideout, draw a card. So there's just different events that will show up. You can put events in only to help one player. So let's say the Fugitive player is not as good as the Marshal player. You can put in just events that help them. They're marked. Or you can put placeholders in. These are just placeholder event cards, and choose from a different pile depending on who's ahead or not. There's different ways to use the events, and they just kind of add some more random factors into the game. That's how you play. Catch a fugitive or they escape. So this game is really kind of a fascinating little game here. It's a deduction game. I love deduction games. As you sit there and try to figure out where did the fugitive go, the fugitive's sitting there going, I'm just going to move a little bit at a time to fool the marshal, because of course the marshal will initially think, of course you'll make the big jumps. If you make the big jumps, after a certain number of cards, you're going to get to 42 faster that way, right? 42 is not that many steps away from 0 if you jump 3 all the time. But if you jump 3 all the time, the marshal knows that. And of course, using more cards is great, but the fact is you're only drawing cards every turn. You know, you have to be really cautious here, because if you spend so much time placing these sprint cards, your hand will be really low in cards, and that's problematic. The marshal, on the other hand, has to decide where he's drawing cards from. It makes sense to draw cards from the range that you think they're in, because the cards are based in ranges here, you can see. So he can try to pick the range, or he can start pulling cards from the future so that by the time you get to those bigger numbers, you don't have many options. And the marshal's like, we have you now. We have you surrounded. And this is cool because it's thematic. It makes sense, right? Like, hey, we're going to put roadblocks there. We know he's going to Jonesville. Have the police there alerted so that by the time the fugitive shows up, they're ready for him. That's great. I think the game is slightly weighted towards the marshal, maybe, because you're sitting there guessing and you're not sweating because it's really a kind of a stressful thing to be the fugitive. But of course, the event cards, you can balance that out. And I like the event cards. I didn't think I would. I was like, event cards, this game is a pure deduction game. I don't need these event cards. But they worked in very nicely. I also like the fact that the cards themselves, the artwork, of course, is great, but they tell this story. And so as you're going through, you're seeing, maybe I should show them right set up. As you're going through, you're seeing the different things happen. You can put them together and just see one long, almost comic strip of how the fugitive is escaping from the marshal. So that was a lot of fun, too. It's a quick game. We're talking 20 minutes. It could be faster, of course, if the marshal guesses. The marshal has some interesting choices, you know, what piles to draw from, what to guess one number or multiple numbers. The fugitive is sitting there stressing out, feels like the law is on your tail the whole time. A lot of cool game package in a small box. If you like asymmetrical two-player games, this is certainly a good example of that. Fugitive. Dice Tower Judgment approved.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door!